Ray Gordy. Ray Gordy, April 23, 1961 – July 16, 2001, was an American professional wrestler. Gordy is best known for his appearances in the United States with promotions such as World Class Championship Wrestling, Jim Crockett Promotions / World Championship Wrestling, and the Universal Wrestling Federation as a member of the Fabulous Freebirds, as well as his appearances in Japan with All Japan Pro Wrestling as one half of the Miracle Violence Connection. Championships held by Gordy over the course of his career include the Triple Crown Heavyweight Championship, AJPW World Tag Team Championship, WCW World Tag Team Championship, NWA World Tag Team Championship, UWF Heavyweight Championship, and SMW Heavyweight Championship. He has been posthumously inducted into the Wrestling Observer, Professional Wrestling, and WWE Hall of Fame. Professional wrestling career. Early career, 1975–1979. Gordy started wrestling in 1975 at the age of 14 as Terry Mecca for the International Wrestling Association. In early 1979, he began wrestling under his real name and formed the Fabulous Freebirds with Michael Hayes. Buddy Roberts was later added to the group. Memphis CWA Wrestling and Mid-South Wrestling, 1979–1985. The Freebirds came to Memphis the first time in 1979 and feuded mainly with Jerry Lawler and Bill Dundee. When in Mid-South Wrestling, he formed the Fabulous Freebirds as the suggestion by Bill Watts with Michael Hayes and Buddy Roberts. They returned in 1984 to feud with Lawler and Austin Idol and later with Lawler and Phil Hickerson. Universal Wrestling Federation, 1986. In 1986, when the Freebirds were in the Universal Wrestling Federation, the former Mid-South Wrestling, Gordy won the UWF Heavyweight Championship title and held it for 6 months, before losing it via forfeit to the One-Man Gang, after an angle the same night in which Gordy was injured by Dr. Death Steve Williams. During this time, Gordy and the Freebirds had an ongoing feud with the UWF fan favorite Hacksaw Jim Duggan, in which Duggan and Gordy frequently squared off, usually ending in a disqualification because of outside interference. World Class Championship Wrestling, 1982–1988. In 1982, the Freebirds went to World Class Championship Wrestling and had a heated and memorable feud with the Von Erichs, David, Kevin, Kerry, and Mike, that was famously kicked off when Gordy slammed the cage door on Kerry during his cage match at WCCW Star Wars, 1982. Against Ric Flair, where Michael Hayes was the special guest referee, inciting a riot among fans attending. They traded the 6-man title back and forth a few times over the years. Gordy was also at one time one half of the WCCW American Tag Team Champions. All Japan Pro Wrestling, 1987–1994. Gordy teamed with Stan Hansen beginning in 1987 in All Japan Pro Wrestling. Gordy later teamed with Steve Williams as the Miracle Violence Connection. During his time there, he also held the Triple Crown Heavyweight Championship on 2 occasions. World Wrestling Federation, 1984. The Freebirds spent a very brief time in the World Wrestling Federation in 1984, but left after management suggested splitting them up. Jim Crockett Promotions / NWA World Championship Wrestling, 1987. 1989, 1992. The Freebirds spent some time in the National Wrestling Alliance's Jim Crockett Promotions, where they split to feud briefly, but later reunited. In 1989, Gordy helped Hayes to reform the Freebirds, with Jimmy Garvin, in Jim Crockett Promotions, JCP, which became World Championship Wrestling in 1991. Later he, alongside of Dr. Death Steve Williams, defeated the Steiners to become World Tag Team Champions. Gordy and Williams returned to World Championship Wrestling, WCW, in 1992 and won the WCW World Tag Team titles. They also won the NWA World Tag Team titles in a tournament at the Great American Bash card in Albany, Georgia, 1 week later, and unified the titles. Their feud with Rick and Scott Steiner, in Japan, this was hyped as a feud between the best foreign teams of the 2 top Japanese promotions. The Steiners were competing for rival New Japan Pro Wrestling at the time. Despite advances by New Japan, Gordy and Williams, out of loyalty to the AJPW founder and promoter, Giant Baba, refused to compete for the promotion, which had business ties with WCW at the time, leading to Gordy's departure from WCW before Halloween Havoc and Williams' departure after Starrcade. In 1993, Gordy, while traveling from the United States to Japan for a tour, took an overdose of pain medication and slipped into a coma, ultimately suffering permanent brain damage. He returned to action later that year, but never received a shot at the Triple Crown again. In 1994, Gordy had a small reunion with Hayes and Garvin as the Freebirds in the Global Wrestling Federation, where he and Garvin won the GWF Tag Team titles. Extreme Championship Wrestling, 1996. In 1996, Gordy showed up in Extreme Championship Wrestling to challenge Raven for the ECW World Heavyweight title, as the internationally recognized #1 contender. He had been working for the International Wrestling Association of Japan promotion in Japan, wrestling death matches. He lost, but went on to team up with Tommy Dreamer and later to reunite with Dr. Death Steve Williams to wrestle the Eliminators. He also wrestled Bam Bam Bigelow in what was the second ever Battle of the Bam Bams. The first one happened on a Windy City wrestling show. Gordy lost the match because of outside interference from the Eliminators. World Wrestling Federation, 1996–1997. Gordy had a brief run in the WWF as the Executioner in 1996 and 1997. He teamed up with Mankind, both managed by Paul Bearer, and feuded with The Undertaker. The Executioner came to the ring under a mask and carrying an axe. He made his TV debut at the In Your House pay-per-view, Buried Alive, where he interfered in The Undertaker's Buried Alive match with Mankind, hitting him with a shovel and burying him with the help of several other wrestlers. However, at In Your House 12, It's Time, The Undertaker defeated the Executioner in an Armageddon Rules match, and Gordy left the promotion shortly afterwards. His final televised appearance was on the January 12, 1997 episode of WWF Superstars, where he lost to Goldust, after which Paul Bearer turned on him by hitting him with his urn. On an episode of Something to Wrestle With, Bruce Pritchard claimed that the Executioner gimmick was given to Gordy because McMahon had doubts that Gordy could still compete effectively, and the use of a mask was intended to protect Gordy so that if that were the case, Gordy's legacy would not be tainted. Had Gordy been able to compete at a high level, then there would have been the opportunity later for Gordy to unmask. It was mentioned that the hiring was mostly done as a favor for Michael Hayes. Personal life. Gordy left behind 2 young daughters, Amber and Miranda Gordy, and a son, Ray Gordy. Ray Gordy wrestled for WWE as Jesse and Slam Master Jade before being released in 2010. His nephew is Richard A. Slinger, who competed for All Japan Pro Wrestling as Richard Slinger. Death. Gordy died of a heart attack caused by a blood clot on July 16, 2001. He was 40. In 2014, he was posthumously inducted into the Southern Wrestling Hall of Fame. A year later, he was also posthumously inducted into the Professional Wrestling Hall of Fame and Museum. On April 2, 2016, Gordy was posthumously inducted by his son into the WWE Hall of Fame as part of the Fabulous Freebirds. Championships and accomplishments.